2009 NBA draft is one of the best in NBA history. It contained the greatest shooter and one of the greatest point guards in NBA history in Steph Curry, one of the greatest scorers in NBA history in James Harden, one of the best defensive guards of his generation and an NBA champion in Jrue Holiday, an all-star wing like DeMar DeRozan, to one of the best highlight reels of his time in Blake Griffin. However, one name from this draft had one of the biggest impacts in basketball history, and it's not a name that I see mentioned a lot. And that player is Brandon Jennings. But before we get into today's video, if you're new and you like basketball, I really think you would love this channel. So if you haven't already, feel free to like, subscribe, hit notification bell to be notified whenever I release a video. Let's try to get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. I make videos to take elements from film essays and apply them to basketball every Friday. So if that's something that interests you, this is the channel for you. But with that being said, let's get right into the video. November 11th, 2009 is the greatest day of Brandon Jennings' NBA career, the day he played his 7th game in the NBA. After being picked 10th overall in the 2009 NBA draft by the Milwaukee Bucks, Jennings was off to a blazing start to his rookie campaign. In his first 6 games of his career, he was averaging 20.7 points per game, 4.3 rebounds per game, and 5.2 assists per game in 32.6 minutes per game. For some perspective on this, up to the same point of time, James Harden and Steph Curry combined were averaging 13.5 points per game, 4.9 rebounds per game, and 8.3 assists per game in 43.3 minutes per game. Jennings had a new triple-double in his NBA debut where he had 17 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists. And leading up to this game, he just had a season high at the time, 32 points, along with 9 assists against the Denver Nuggets. And now he was set to face off against a fellow rookie in Steph Curry in his next game. And well, it was one for the ages. However, after the first quarter, you probably wouldn't think that, because Brandon Jennings had 0 points on 0 for 3 shooting from the field in the first quarter, and even after the first half ended, he was only on pace for, at best, a solid game, as he had 10 points on 4 for 13 shooting from the field. Then the third quarter happened, and Brandon Jennings became a man possessed. In the third quarter, he scored 29 points and only missed 1 field goal as he shot 12 for 13 from the field, 4 for 5 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the line, meaning he was 1 free throw away from having a 30-point quarter. By himself, his 29 points in that quarter was 3 more than the Warriors had as a team in that quarter. And in the fourth quarter, he had 16 points on 5 for 8 shooting from the field and 2 for 2 from 3, as well as 4 for 4 from the line. Jennings would finish the game with 55 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. He shot 21 for 34 from the field, 7 for 8 from 3, and 6 for 8 from the line. That translates to a 61.8, 87.5, 75 shooting split with a 73.32 shooting percentage. And it gets even more crazy because in the second half alone, he had 45 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists. In that half, he shot 17 for 21 from the field, 6 for 7 from 3, and 5 for 6 from the line, which translates to 81, 85.7, 83.3 shooting splits. Over the course of a full game, that translates to 90 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists, shooting 34 for 42 from the field, 12 for 14 from 3, and 10 for 12 from the line. The point being is that Brandon Jennings had a crisp move, my career-esque second half of this game. And you might be thinking that's unrealistic for him to sustain that kind of play for 2 halves, which, to be fair, I agree with. It is unrealistic. But I want to talk about something else. Remember how I mentioned that Brandon Jennings didn't score in the first quarter? Well, what if he did? In 3 quarters, Brandon Jennings had 55 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists on 21 for 31 shooting from the field, 7 for 8 shooting from 3, and 6 for 8 from the line. So basically what I did was remove the misses from the first quarter. This would actually translate to 18.3 points per game, 1.3 rebounds per game, and 1.6 assists per game per quarter on 7 for 10.3 shooting from the field, 2.3 for 2.6 shooting from 3, and 2 for 2.6 from the line. So I will round this out to around 7 for 10 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3 and about 2 for 3 from the line. If Jennings put up this kind of pace for a full game, and he played the way he did in the next 3 quarters in the first quarter, he would have 73 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists on 28-41 from the field, 9 for 11 from 3, and 8 for 11 from the line. And again, while you might think that scoring 70 or 90 points in the game is insane, well, it's also the fact that he even scores 5 points in a quarter that he didn't score in, he would have had 60. And that in its own right is insane. And also in its own right, a 6'1", 170-pound, 20-year-old rookie in his 7th game in the NBA, scoring the 5th most single-game points by a rookie, breaking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's rookie record, more single-game rookie points than Michael Jordan and Allen Iverson in 3 quarters. It's insane. For a brief moment, he looked like he was the right pick at 10, and also it looked like he was going to be better than 2 all-time great players, 2 generation-defying players. For a brief moment it was like that. But it wasn't. In the end, Brandon Jennings had an okay career. Wasn't the most efficient scorer, but was a good passer. Put up around, 16 and 7 for his career. Bounced around a few teams. Unfortunately, his career ended earlier than you would have hoped due to injuries. Suffered an awful Achilles tear. And I do think he would still be playing right now if it wasn't for that Achilles injury. However, a 55-point game isn't his biggest impact on basketball. And I'm going to explain what his biggest impact on basketball actually was now. 3 years before Brandon Jennings was drafted into the NBA, a rule was put in place that put an end to the prep to pro era, and for the most part started the one and done era. Even though one and dones existed, this was really the start of that one and done era, where prospects would just spend 1 year in college and then declare for the NBA draft. Brandon Jennings at the time was the number 1 player in the ESPN recruiting class for his senior year. He averaged 35 points per game for the prestigious Oak Hill Academy his senior year and was Naismith Prep Player of the Year. He originally committed to play for his hometown team, the USC Trojans, before flipping his commitment to the Arizona Wildcats. However, for many reasons this wouldn't happen because Brandon Jennings wouldn't go to college. Jennings announced in 2008 he was considering becoming the first American prospect to skip college to play professionally in Europe. And this consideration became a reality when Jennings signed with the Roma of the Italian Serie A. I probably butchered that, I know. But he did get a contract with that club for $1.6 million guaranteed. He would put up around 6 points per game, 2 rebounds per game, and 2 assists per game in 27 games with the club. And in 16 games during EuroLeague play, he averaged around 8 points per game, 2 rebounds per game, and 2 assists per game. While on the surface, these numbers aren't great necessarily, and they don't really stand out, especially considering, he did average like 35 points per game in high school, and he likely would have put up big numbers had he gone to college, but considering he was playing, grown men, and he was in the EuroLeague, I think it was pretty good for a small guard that was a teenager at the time, and it was clearly enough to get him drafted in the top 10. He became the first player who skipped college to play professionally in EuroLeague or Europe or overseas in general to get drafted by an NBA team. And this would start something as a few years later, we would see Emmanuel Mudiay, who was a top 5 recruit in his class, who was actually projected to be a potential number 1 overall pick, decide to bypass college and play overseas in China for a year before going 7th overall to the Denver Nuggets. Then a few years later, we saw RJ Hampton and LaMelo Ball join the NBL via their Next Stars program, which I believe is a great thing that they have that, and it's a great alternative. And RJ Hampton would be a first round pick, and LaMelo Ball would be a top 3 pick, and looks like one of the bright stars in basketball. And while it isn't overseas, most recently we have seen 2 top 7 picks in Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga bypass college for a season with the G League Ignite, where they would face G League competition, which again, like the other leagues, is more competitive than college. And to be quite honest with you, I don't think this happens, or at least most of this doesn't happen, without Brandon Jennings having the success that he has. Sure, Jennings never became a star in the league, but he lasted for a very long time, made a lot of money, and was a top 10 pick. If he decides to go to college, I don't think things go the way that they have so far. If people didn't see his success, maybe they don't try it themselves. The only one I think that would still happen would be LaMelo Ball, but that's a whole other story for a whole other time that deserves a video of its own right. So if you want that video, maybe leave it in the comment section below and, give you some feedback, because I will make that video about that whole situation if you want. But that's besides the point. But to get back on track, maybe if Brandon Jennings doesn't go through with what he said he was going to do and he ends up just going to college, maybe Emmanuel Mudiay doesn't try it, or maybe OJ Hampton doesn't try it, maybe Ignite never forms and Kuminga and Green go to college if the alternative route isn't clear. Maybe I'm overreacting to all this, but I truly believe Jennings is a pioneer for alternative paths for the NBA for American prospects. He was the one who started all of this. He was the influence in why the path to the league is what it is today. Jennings never became the all-time great scorer that James Harden became. He didn't become the generational shooter that Steph Curry became. He never became the two-way monster that Jrue Holiday became, or the All-Stars that Blake Griffin and DeMar DeRozan have become. But what Brandon Jennings did for basketball is bigger than scoring and shooting records, or All-Star, All-NBA, and All-Defense teams. What Brandon Jennings did for basketball was open the eyes for many for a path outside the norm. And it started a positive movement for basketball for years to come and the prospects that have a chance to play in the NBA. The reason I made this video was because I've noticed a lot of the popularity with, things like G League Ignite, Next Star program, things like that. And I always have felt like Brandon Jennings never got enough credit for his role in this. And that's the reason you make a lot of the videos that you do on YouTube, at least for me, is to help people understand or open people's eyes to other things that play big factors that maybe don't get talked about. I think Brandon Jennings is one of those things. Again, I'm not saying necessarily none of this happens without Brandon Jennings, but Brandon Jennings definitely had a big part in this. He was the one that kind of pioneered all of this. And he's somebody that deserves more credit for pioneering what he did for, future generations. Because giving people alternative paths to reach the league, that's something that's needed. And Brandon Jennings, again, was somebody that really played a big factor in it when he decided to be like that first big time recruit to do it. A #1 ranked recruit to do it nonetheless. And that's something that deserves to be talked about. I know people, when they talk about the 2009 draft, they're going to talk about Steph Curry. I know they're going to talk about James Harden and, DeMar DeRozan, Blake Griffin, guys like that. But I think Brandon Jennings deserves to be talked about as being a part of that draft, being the first guy to skip college and play overseas and get drafted highly, and have a successful career, and start something special, I believe. I'm not saying like he changed the game Steph Curry did, I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying he had one of the biggest impacts on basketball and had a big impact on future generations of basketball by giving other people, an idea of what an alternative path can look like. And again, that's in the end why I made this video, because he is an important piece in basketball history because of what he decided to do when he easily could have gone to college. But that is the end of this video. If you've made it to this point, thank you so much. Again, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, do all those things, be a big help to me. Let me know what you think about Brandon Jennings in the comment section below. What do you think his impact on the current landscape of the path to make it to the league is? Love to hear stuff like that in the comment section below. I know this is different. You're only getting like one video this week. and I put a lot of time into this one. I'm really happy with how this came out, from writing the script to doing everything that I have with this project. Be on the lookout for next week. Next Friday, I will be dropping a video about Harry Giles, so be on the lookout for that. I'm excited. I'm really excited about that one. I really have always wanted to talk about Giles, and I finally feel like I've put together a script, and I'm working on editing a very interesting project. So be on the lookout for that. Subscribe to know when that one goes live, obviously. But with that being said, have a nice day.